mentioned in the book, I like the voice shows freely and resonate with every part of the body. So how does your voice resonate with every part of the body? What kind of feeling is that? And how to train yourself?
That's a lot of questions in one question. When I sing Pansori for somebody, what I do is the person is sitting in front of me, and first I listen to the field that develops, because there's a field developing between us. And with the first singing that I do, all the information that we need will reveal itself. And from that, the sound finds the correct place in the body where to go to. So I do not choose the place of the body, but the sound itself finds where there is tension, where there is blockage, and how to usually how to work around that in a kind of, you can say, diagnostic way. And then when there has been enough information, then the sound will start entering that place and start melting what needs to melt and liberating the energy. And you ask me, how do you learn that? That happened very slowly, because in the beginning I didn't know that. So I would think, well, maybe I have to concentrate on a certain part. Somebody would tell me, my liver is hurting, or I have a stomach problem. But when I really listened to the sound, sometimes I was noticing the sound doesn't go to the liver, doesn't go to the stomach. It goes to the kidneys first. So I learned to follow the sound. And I have done a lot of rolling on the floor and moving and studying my own body. While I sing for the bones, where do I hear the sound? What kind of sound corresponds to the bones? What kind of sound is needed for a liver that is blocked? What kind of sound is connected to the heart or to the lungs? So now, when I sing for somebody, I almost already feel in my own body where the sound will resonate, where the sound will have its effect. And often, after the singing, I will share with the person I've been singing for and ask them, I felt I was singing for the heart. Do you also feel that? And usually they say, yes, I have this feeling you're on top of the heart or behind it or to the side of it. So there's also a lot of exploring together with the one I'm singing for.
Jack, you have been working with Yvonne.
That's right.
So could you talk about a little when you work with Yvonne?
Yeah, it's just as Yvonne mentioned, that it's amazing experiences. Sometimes it's very hard to express, the feeling about the vibration. Yeah, especially touching your body, even touching your feeling. If you can say touching your heart or something, it's a frequency, it's a very vibration, is very very neat, very
Very subtle.
Yes, just can penetrate,
Yeah.
You even can through your body, to the other dimensions. You never using your brain to imagine what kind of the things happen to me. Just as you share it, you feel that your sound is touching the heart or some organ of the patient, yeah? But it's very hard to explain.
For me, the interesting thing is, because I want to teach this to people.
Yes, that's right.
So I realized they need some stepping stones or some help, some guide. So over the years I realized there are different levels on which the sound can resonate. The first is the physical level, yes. What we can touch. The second level is more subtle, and it's more what do we feel?
Yes.
What are our emotions that start moving? And the next level is what is happening in the mental space, and that means what is happening in the brain. What kind of changes are happening there, which is, you could say, again, a higher frequency. And then the fourth level is what is happening on the social level, but that has a connection with what is happening on the much more transcendent level. Some people say spiritual, but you can say what is happening in this bigger field. And gradually you learn to distinguish that and to trust. It has a lot to do with can I really trust the sound? That is one of the most difficult things for my students to learn. To let the sound go where it wants to go, not pushing it in a certain direction, and then to trust the sounds that come out of their mouth. Because sometimes the sounds, and you have noticed that in the workshop, the sounds are sometimes not so-called nice. They can also be in disharmony at the beginning. And I was of course questioning that, because at first I thought harmony is better. And then I met a woman from Hong Kong who was a scientist in England, Mei Wan Ho, and she has studied the liquids in our body. And she found that we have many different liquids in our body, fluids, blood, lymph, between the cells of the body. And she has found that all these different liquids are like a liquid crystal. So they have all the colors of the rainbow. And she was in a workshop with me, and she said, I'm very interested by what you're doing, and I love singing. And one of the things I learned from her, because she said, when I study the healing qualities of those liquids, it is important to start the process of healing that there is disharmony. Because when a person is sick, there is disharmony in the body, and you can only make this disharmony go back to harmony to treat it with the same disharmonic sounds.
Do you think singer can develop intuition, and they can also sense others? Would you please explain it specifically?
We have 5 senses: smell, taste, seeing, hearing, and touching. In the singing, those 5 senses develop more and more independently. Our seeing becomes better, our smell becomes better, our taste changes, our hearing changes, and we become more sensitive to touch. This independent change in the five senses leads to a sixth sense, what they say our intuition is. They started working together, and after some time we know things without knowing where they came from. It's like they pop up in ourselves, or they come into our mind, and it's like when we ask a question, and for instance, I was working today with a woman who has a question about cleaning her house. She finds it difficult to keep it clean and to do, which is a very mundane question, you can say. And we were singing together, and she had put the question clearly. And all of a sudden there was also a quite mundane answer in my mind. I said, why don't you hire a professional to help you? And she said, my God, I never thought about that. That is an option. I said, yes. So that is a very day-to-day example. But you can also have that all of a sudden you understand something about yourself. That you get an answer to a question that you've been carrying with you for a long time. Say, should I quit my job, or should I change the city where I live? And that question can be with you for a long time, and when you sing, or when somebody else sings, suddenly it says click. And that is an answer from all the layers of your person. The physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, social. Then suddenly you find yourself in Paris, like you.
When I was in your workshop, I feel that, it's very interesting experiences, I'm not a good singer, I most of the time I did not sing, But in your workshop, this is the first time I just get rid of everybody. I just saying what I want to sing, anyway. So I feel that my song teach me something, It's because it's a sound quality of my,
Yeah.
I can feel that. I can feel my song. My song teach me something, about myself. I'm not so sure logically, it's working or not, but that's just reality. My song just telling me who I am,
Yeah.
And
I think I heard that.
Yeah.
During the workshop.
But I myself singing, right?
Yeah.
But through the song, it enlightened me,
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you first started to explore your own voice, your hearing seems to become keener, better. So hearing can be trained. And please, could you share with us what kind of process it be? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, a bit. Because people in Taiwan often ask me, how can I develop my voice better?
Yes.
So humming is one, but I also often tell them I made a few CD albums, and I often tell them, put on the album and sing with me, because the singing on the albums comes from a deep listening. When they listen to those sounds, automatically their voice, when they hear them, their voice will start producing producing those sounds. We cannot produce in sound what we don't hear. So the hearing is first, and when our hearing develops, our singing will develop, and our hearing will develop, and our singing will develop. So many people have been working with the CDs in that way, also because people can also sing for themselves. But many people say, I cannot sing by myself, and it's strange when I do that. When my CD is running, and you don't have to sing the same tones. No, sing your own tones. But even when you are silent, then something continues. I will continue singing, because the CD will continue singing. And what is also important is to listen to sounds of nature, to listen to crickets, to listen to bees, to listen to rivers, to listen to the sound of the leaves rustling, because these sounds all have these high frequencies, and it will go to this part of your ear, and then it will go inside, and then it will go to the middle ear where it will be amplified, and then it will go to the inner ear, to this spiral. And in every place of the physical ear, there are places where this brilliance or these sound qualities can develop. So you should also look at the anatomical chart of an ear. So you can see, oh, there's this ear tube. When I sing, when I put my finger in it, what can I hear from this ear tube? What can I experience? Is there a specific sound there? Okay, I put it in my ear, I take it out of my ear, and I listen, and I put it back again, and I move it a bit, and I take it out again. And after having explored it, you can go to the membrane. At the end of the tube, there's a membrane where the sound is amplified very, very much. And you can ask yourself, when I listen, the sound is traveling here, it's going into the ear tube. Can I experience that membrane? Can I hear it in my sound? And of course you also need help. You need training with a pansori who has done that, who has developed ears, and who can say to you, when you sing, there are students in Taiwan now who can do this. When you sing, they can listen, they can say, did you hear that sound? And you can say, no, I didn't. And then they will say, sing it again. And I sing with you. And then, yes, all of a sudden you say, yes, now I hear it. And then you want to make the next one and it's gone. But it will come again. I think you experienced that.
Yes. Learned with the other about 20 females, right? They are high pitched sound. My sound is lower. Yeah. So at the first beginning, I did not notice that my sounds will benefit other people because I'm the lower one. So after the lessons, a lot of students share with me that my sound helping them.
So nice to hear.
That's right. I did not notice that.
No.
Yeah, but my sound, my tone, because the lower part, that's really balanced. They are singing, so they even can sing better, even sing higher, even can, they have. I don't know how to explain this, but from their feedback, they really appreciate.
Yes.
My presence in this class.
Yeah.
That's just so interesting.
Yeah, and in the beginning you said, do I have to sing as high as they are
That's
singing?
right, that's of course.
I said, no, please sing.
Yeah. I just, at the first beginning, I tried to catch up, their pitch. That's too high to me. So at the first an hour, it's terrible to me. I could not sing as high as they sing, But you share with me, I sing my own tone, so it's right now at that moment I feel quite relaxed and enjoy, When I enjoy, they enjoy, So this kind of interactions, so interesting. Yeah.
What is so-called opening the ear? And how to do that?
But the only way to do it is by listening. And sometimes you can do like this and sing. Because when I do like this and use this as a resonator, as an amplifier, more sound will go into the ear, into the inner ear, and I will hear. Ooh. You hear? This ear is very different.
Mm-hmm.
This ear is a bit clouded. Tones, more frequencies happening. So that's how you learn. That's the only way. Listening, 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 listening. And not being frustrated when the next day it is all gone.
Okay. So, when listening, we just need to feel the sound and do not think about anything. Or we need to think or judge what we have heard, right?
No, because especially don't judge the sound. Don't say this is ugly. Because this part with which we sing, our vocal instrument, it's like a very sophisticated recording machine that throughout all our life records everything that has happened to us. And it also has created limitations and blockages there. Sometimes that can only melt or disappear when we sing sounds that are not so nice, that are a bit because there is our whole life history is here, and when we listen well to somebody, we can hear that. And some parts of our history have been pushed aside and we are not aware of them. And sometimes when this starts to become more free, that information also becomes free, and that liberates this part more and more. Because that's ultimately, that is what we want in the Pansori singing, and that this vocal instrument is as free as possible. Because when we sing for other people, when we want to have a voice that is capable of supporting the healing in somebody, then the voice needs to be able to sing everything. Everything that this field or this person needs. I still remember the first introductory course that I gave, and I usually give a demonstration, so I sing and somebody tells me what her problem is, and she said, I have this problem in my vocal instrument. And I invited her to sing, and she said, there's no sound. So I said, well, then maybe I can dancing, and you just listen and find out what is happening. And a very ugly sounds coming. This was my first introduction, so I'm thinking, none of these people will come to my workshops. This is very bad publicity. For about 10 minutes, it's really those kind of sounds. And after 10 minutes, a normal sound came out of my mouth, like so I opened my eyes and I asked her, what is happening to you? And she said, you have no idea what is happening. This is completely open. So I said, then please let me hear that. And we sing together. And it was true. So the voice is often a reflection also, like a mirror of what needs to be healed or needs to be released or changed. So that's why the voice has to be able to sing everything and not to judge it, not to say, this is an ugly sound and I should stop it, I should go to a more beautiful sound and harmonic
Because
sound.
there's always a reason why.
There's a reason why it is so, why it is like that.
Yeah. Why do we need to sing with the vowel A, O, U, U?
Yeah.
What is the effect of the vowel here?
In the first basics of Ansori, we ask you to sing A, O, or U.
Yeah.
Because these are the sounds that create less stress on the vocal instrument. Later on, you can use all the other vowels like but when you start doing that too early, the tension here is too big. So in order to have this process happening, we ask people to sing A, O, U. In the first basic training that we do, and then afterwards they can just find out what, and some people say, I really have a preference for U, and other people say, for me, I like U more, maybe you can hear that. It's a very different sound. So now I often do U and I'm going to A, so then A will benefit from the U, and then so that's the reason behind it. There's no, it's not forbidden to use the other vowels to help the students to really develop this freedom in the voice.
Yeah, the last song you sing, my brain stopped.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. At that moment, my brain stopped, you know?
Yeah.
It's wow. Okay, anyway.
Okay. So is the brilliance the resonance of our nerves?
It's closest to the language that our nervous system uses. I discovered that with a quantum physicist, a professor, who could do research on how the nervous system functions and how it talks. And he told me these brilliant sounds are when you see the different octaves. There are many different octaves, and when you go higher and higher and higher, you come into light, the frequency of light. And he said his research was that the whole body communicates through light. And he said, your voice can work with this light quality in the nervous system. So that's why I think the brilliance is the entrance to the nervous system and to the brain. To be proved still. It's what I think.
Yeah.
And have seen many times, but I cannot prove it yet.
Yeah, it's a lot of things, I cannot prove. Also, from my knowledge about the acoustic, I could not prove yet. But, from my study, from my experiences, my intuition, just say it works.
We know that there are many resonance medical treatments that have a significant effect on physical and mental illness. But how much progress has it made in terms of pathological basis? So can you explain a little bit about that?
There's a lot happening in the whole field of frequency, and what we do is we write reports and we try to note everything that is happening through the pansori singing. And I've had some really wonderful healings, but they should be repeated and repeated and repeated before people believe it. There's a lot possible in changing brain damage, because the brain can adapt itself. But also here, we don't know exactly how it happens. We see sometimes when we do a brain scan before, we do a brain scan after, we can see that there has been change. But how the change has happened, nobody can tell us yet. Maybe later we can, being in it. But the first case that I describe in my book of the woman that had a very damaged brain and who was miraculously healed, I didn't believe it.
For one treatment.
One treatment, yeah.
So the second question is, the impact of the singing on the brain seems to be the most critical. Does the brain affect other organs?
Yeah, in fact, through the brain, the whole body is being steered in a certain. Everything goes through the nervous system and the brain. When I want to do this, the brain has reacted. So the nervous system is always involved. But the healing sometimes needs to take place in the organ itself, in the bones itself, in the hormones, in the endocrine system. But then to effect that healing, there the brain is involved and the whole nervous system is involved. So without focusing on it, I think the brain and the nervous system are always part of it.
So are there any confirmed development in the two main diseases of senior treatment, Alzheimer's disease and the Parkinson's disease?
Parkinson reacts very good to rhythm, so people use music and rhythm to not to freeze, to keep from freezing. Alzheimer's, yes, people who have Alzheimer's disease react to songs they know from their youth. Sometimes they can speak again, they find words again when songs they have been hearing when they were young are played to them. So that's the two ways I know that we can work on Parkinson and Alzheimer's disease. there's no healing yet. There's a way to work with the symptoms. And musical therapists work a lot with people who have dementia.
I saw you have a resonator here. I know it's your purple Jack has invented. So can you share, is there any effect on your singing in your treatment? Can you share with us?
I did a few sessions today, and both the clients said, what happened to your voice? It's even more intense, it's warmer, it's more dark, it's more warm, timbre, I don't know how to say that in English, there's more timbre, and I connect that with the resonator. And I like to wear it like this. I don't like to wear it like this.
Yeah.
Because I feel this is in expression.
Yes.
And this is more into
Yes.
going inside.
Right.
And I've been going inside for a long time in my life, and now it's time to do this. But I'm convinced it has a great effect.
So Jack, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I think I have the same feeling. When I designed this for piano, using this side, they make the sound, in this way. The other side, they will make sound in this way. So definitely the energy will flow at the same way. But thank you so much for your sharing. I think I learned a lot from you and Esther. I think definitely in the future you will be benefiting all the people around the world, about the sound hearings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack.